Coming up next on the Hard Knock University podcast, we're going to tackle a tough but necessary topic, being the bad guy.
So say good night to the bad guy. Come on. The last time you're going to see a bad guy like this again, let me tell you.
In episode 5, we're going to dive into chapter 4 of the Hard Knock School of Project Management, exploring lesson 3, sometimes you're the bad guy. We're going to discuss why sometimes making unpopular decisions is part of the job and how it can actually lead to growth and success. We'll also delve into the book of the week, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, learning negotiation tactics from an FBI hostage negotiator's perspective. Perfect for those moments when you need to stand firm, yet remain empathetic. I'll be joined by a special guest, Mark Sebby, a seasoned musician, artist manager, radio promoter, and chart editor, who will share his insights on handling the bad guy role in the creative and business aspects of the music industry. Plus, we want to hear from you.
I don't.
Have you ever had to wear the bad guy hat in your professional or personal life? Share your stories with the hashtag HardKnockLessons for a chance to be featured right here on the show. Tune in to discover how to navigate the challenging waters of decision-making when the stakes are high. That's episode 5, Being the Bad Guy, only on the Hard Knock University podcast.
So that's all that happened to me today. I learned the hard way. Actually, it was a good learning experience for me.
It's called process. You never want to stop learning, because if you do...
You die, right?
In many ways.
I don't understand why you insist on learning things the hard way, Trey, but you gonna learn. Oh yeah, you gonna learn.
I'm not afraid, Mr. Burr. My mind will protect me. I'm a man of science, a man of learning, a man who knows how to buy the finest books.
You're listening to the Hard Knock University podcast. We're sharing hard lessons learned the hard way. Everyone is welcome here. All we ask is that you bring an open mind and a good attitude.
But on the other hand, man, I just as soon keep working, keep a little change in my pocket.
Before we jump into today's episode, let's take a moment to recap what we covered last time on the Hard Knock University podcast. In episode 4, titled The Myth of Omniscience, we explored why the belief that you gotta know everything can actually hinder your projects.
Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe fuck yourself.
We delved into chapter 3 of my book, The Hard Knock School of Project Management, where humility trumped hubris, showing how admitting you don't know everything can lead to better project outcomes.
Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe fuck yourself.
Our book of the week, Verbal Judo by George J. Thompson, taught us how to communicate effectively in high-stress situations where answers aren't clear. We were also joined by Bruce Graham, a business coach turned contractor, who shared practical strategies for navigating projects without all the answers, emphasizing the importance of setting expectations and leveraging team knowledge. If you missed this episode, I highly recommend you go back and listen. It's packed with lessons on transforming the myth of omniscience into an opportunity for growth in project management and personal development.
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
I don't.
Now let's move on to today's exploration of what it means to sometimes be the bad guy in project management. But first, let's talk about my week. My week. Well, I'm not getting pardoned, but I am gearing up for something big. The International Builders Show. I'll be there. When this episode airs, I will be at the show that week. That first week that this episode is live, I will actually be at the International Builders Show in Las Vegas. Going to be soaking up all the latest in construction and project management, promising to bring back a treasure trove of content just for you listeners. So stay tuned for some exciting updates from the show. And speaking of new things, I'm hosting this episode from my brand new studio. I actually hosted the last episode from the studio and forgot to mention it.
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
I don't.
But I thought that it went really well. I think the video quality was much better. And I hope that everyone feels the same way. We've stepped up the game here at Hard Knock University. I think that it's worth the effort. Let's talk about the book, my book. It's officially on the shelves. If you've been waiting to get your hands on the Hard Knock School of Project Management, now's your chance. And for those of you in my area, mark your calendars. I'm scheduled to participate in the Hill Country Literary Festival. They're having a local author meet and greet on March 8th from 11:15 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Mammon Family Public Library in Bulverde, Texas. So come say hello, get your book signed, or just chat with me about project management. If you're curious about where you can find me or how you can book me for speaking engagements or events, head over to leadershipknocks.com. There's plenty of information there to get you connected. And that's also where you're going to want to go to get an autographed copy of the book. What else? No AI job losses this week. I think people are starting to catch on that maybe DeepSeek has a little fraud behind it. But, we really don't know, man. AI is weird. The companies that are creating it are weird. A lot of people have really mixed emotions about it. And I really want to dive into that topic. I think that we could probably spend a whole season interviewing people on both sides of that aisle, like people that are for AI and have all kinds of insights on how to use it in today's world and why it's not a bad thing. And then people that are against AI that can tell you all the kinds of reasons why you shouldn't use it. I really want to jump into that. So if you're an expert or you know an expert on AI and you want to get involved with the podcast, send me an email or a DM or get a hold of me somehow. I'm interested in talking to you. But yeah, my week, no final destination moments or anything. Just good old project management and book promotion and the new studio to show off. So that's my week. Stay tuned because we're diving into chapter 4 of my book where we'll tackle the tough topic of sometimes you're the bad guy. And by the way, we're not using Snoop Dogg's voice this time. This week, we've got Gwyneth Paltrow.
I'm Gwyneth Paltrow.
So thanks, Speechify. All right, folks, let's get into it. All right, folks, we're diving into chapter 4 of the Hard Knock School of Project Management, titled Sometimes You're the Bad Guy. And for a special treat this week, we're using Speechify to have none other than Gwyneth Paltrow lend her voice to our narrative. Let's see how her charm and grace can soften the edges of being the project manager who sometimes have to deliver the tough news. Here we go with Gwyneth's take on navigating the complexities of residential remodeling and leadership. Listen closely as she guides us through the art of balancing empathy with assertiveness.
Chapter 4, Lesson 3. Sometimes you're the bad guy. You can please some of the people, all of the team. You can please all the people, some of the team. But you can't please all of the people all at a time. John Lydgate. The art of leadership is saying no, not saying yes. It is very easy to say yes. Tony Blair. Mastering the art of difficult conversations. In the world of residential remodeling, where the only constant is change, project managers often find themselves in the precarious position of delivering bad news. Whether it's due to unexpected delays, budget overruns, or unforeseen structural issues, these moments can test the mettle of even the most seasoned professionals. When the news is not what clients want to hear, the role of the project manager can shift from hero to villain in the blink of an eye. This is where the wisdom from 2 profoundly insightful books comes into play. Dr. George J. Thompson's Verbal Judo, The Gentle Art of Persuasion, and Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference, Negotiating as if your life depended on it. Dr. Thompson's work, originally crafted for law enforcement to manage confrontations with dignity, has proven equally effective in the nuanced art of project management communication. His strategies focus on de-escalation, empathy, and redirection, turning heated exchanges into opportunities for collaboration. Complementing this, Chris Voss, with his background as an FBI hostage negotiator, offers a treasure trove of negotiation tactics in Never Split the Difference. His techniques, rooted in behavioral psychology, emphasize tactical empathy, active listening, and the strategic use of no to navigate negotiations. These skills are vital when you need to assert project realities while maintaining a compassionate connection with clients or team members. In my experience, these two books go hand in hand. While verbal judo lays out the groundwork for calming and redirecting tense conversations, Never Split the Difference equips you with the tools to negotiate outcomes that satisfy all parties involved. Together, they form a comprehensive guide for managing not just the project but the people within it. Let's delve into how these principles can transform challenging discussions into constructive dialogues, ensuring that even when the news is bad, the relationship remains strong. Dr. Thompson and verbal judo. Residential remodeling is unpredictable. Expectations can sometimes soar as high as the roofs we're replacing, and sometimes they're downright unrealistic. And on every project, something goes wrong. Oftentimes, it's little stuff that doesn't really move the thermometer on the client's temperature. The paint color didn't turn out to be a perfect match. The electrician is running a day behind schedule. The weather is going to delay the project by a week. But sometimes it is a big deal. The inspector found a deficiency with the existing home that isn't related to our contract and is going to require a large change order. A water supply line froze overnight and burst, causing a flood. Or there are problems with a trade partner and we need to terminate them and get another crew out to finish the work. Now it's on me to deliver bad news. And it's only human to shoot the messenger. So there comes a moment in nearly every project where the project manager feels like the bad guy. This isn't just about delivering bad news. It's about managing emotions, expectations, and reactions when things don't go as planned. Here, the teachings of Dr. George J. Thompson and his book Verbal Judo, The Gentle Art of Persuasion, offer invaluable strategies for navigating these rough waters with grace and effectiveness. Dr. Thompson's verbal judo is not about confrontation, but about de-escalation and understanding. As a former law enforcement officer, Dr. Thompson learned the hard way how to apply his technique of de-escalation on some of the most violent confrontations around. Today, the technique is taught to police forces all around the country, and the book is shared with leadership and sales teams alike. Here's how we can apply his principles to the art of delivering bad news as a project manager. 1. Empathy. First, principle. Begin every interaction with empathy. Understand that the news you're about to deliver might be upsetting or frustrating for your client or team member. Application. Before you dive into the problem, acknowledge the other person's feelings or potential disappointment. A statement like, "I understand how important it is for you to have this done on time," sets a tone of understanding rather than confrontation. 2. Redirecting hostility. Principle. When faced with resistance or anger, use the energy to guide the conversation towards a solution rather than letting it spiral into conflict. Application. If the client reacts negatively, don't meet that energy with defensiveness. Instead, use phrases like, "I hear your frustration. Let's see how we can address this together." This shifts focus from the problem to collaborative problem solving. 3. Strip phrases for de-escalation. Principle. Dr. Thompson suggests using strip phrases like, "Let me be honest with you," to prepare the ground for tough conversations without escalating tension. Application. Before dropping the bad news, use such phrases to set expectations. "I want to be upfront with you about our current situation." This prepares the listener for what's coming, reducing shock or surprise. 4. Paraphrasing for understanding. Principle. Paraphrase to show you understand and validate the other's perspective, reducing misunderstanding and hostility. Application. After explaining the issue, paraphrase their response or concern. So you're worried about the delay affecting your move-in date, correct? This not only confirms you're listening, but also opens up dialogue for solutions. 5. Presenting options. Principle. Offer options rather than solutions. This gives the person a sense of control over the situation. Application. Instead of dictating what will happen next, discuss options. We could either expedite the order at an additional cost or adjust the project timeline. What are your thoughts on these options? Avoiding the but word, principle, the word but often negates everything said before it. It's better to use and or separate sentences. Application. Instead of saying, I know you wanted this done by Friday, but it's not possible. Try, I know you wanted this done by Friday. We're working on an alternative schedule due to an unforeseen delay. In project management, especially in residential remodeling where clients are personally invested, delivering bad news can feel like you're stepping into the role of the antagonist. However, by employing Dr. Thompson's verbal judo techniques, you transform from an adversary into an ally, working through challenges together. This approach not only helps in managing the immediate situation, but also preserves or even strengthens the relationship for the remainder of the project and beyond. Remember, in these moments, you're not just managing a project, you're managing human emotions and expectations. The balancing act, empathy, and assertiveness in the face of bad news. When I had to deliver bad news in my role as a project manager, I quickly learned the importance of balancing assertiveness with empathy. Reflecting on those moments, I realized that this balance was not just about the immediate conversation, but had profound effects on trust, communication, conflict resolution, and the overall success of the project. I found that empathy was crucial for maintaining trust and relationships. When I acknowledged the feelings of those I was speaking to, I helped them feel heard and understood. This wasn't just about softening the blow. It was about showing that I cared about their perspective and experience. However, I also understood that without assertiveness, empathy could be mistaken for weakness or indecision. I made sure to be clear, direct, and firm about the news or the necessary steps forward, which helped in keeping professional boundaries intact and reinforcing trust in my leadership. This blend also facilitated better communication. By showing empathy, I opened channels for dialogue, encouraging constructive conversations rather than defensive reactions. My assertiveness ensured that the critical points were communicated without room for ambiguity, which was vital when dealing with negative updates where misunderstandings could lead to further complications. Another lesson I learned was how this balance could reduce conflict and escalation. Empathy acted as a buffer, softening the harshness of bad news. Recognizing someone's emotional state helped me de-escalate potential conflicts. Meanwhile, my assertiveness set expectations about what could or couldn't be altered, preventing misunderstandings or unrealistic hopes from escalating the situation. I also saw how this approach encouraged collaborative problem solving. My empathetic stance showed that we were in this together, fostering a sense of partnership. This made people more willing to work with me towards solutions. However, my assertiveness provided structure and direction, signaling that while I was open to ideas, certain realities had to be addressed. Over time, I recognized that this balance was enhancing my emotional intelligence. Empathy reflected my understanding and consideration of others' feelings, leading to better decision-making for all stakeholders. My assertiveness ensured that these decisions were made with the project's best interests in mind, not just emotional responses. Preserving morale and motivation was another area where this balance proved invaluable. Through empathy, I could mitigate the demoralizing impact of bad news, helping individuals or teams to bounce back more swiftly. My assertiveness kept the focus on what needed to be done next, guiding the team forward constructively despite the setbacks. Lastly, this approach was instrumental in professional development, both for myself and my team. My empathetic handling of difficult situations provided a model for how to navigate challenges with grace, serving as a learning opportunity. My assertiveness in these scenarios demonstrated leadership qualities, teaching others how to balance firmness with compassion, which was essential for their growth as professionals. In essence, when I delivered bad news, balancing assertiveness with empathy allowed me to be more than just a bearer of information. I became a guide through the process. This balance ensured that while the news might have been tough, the conversation led to positive outcomes rather than destructive fallout. Negotiating projects with FBI precision. Lessons from Chris Voss. Chris Voss is a former FBI hostage negotiator who spent over 2 decades in the Bureau, notably serving as the lead international kidnapping negotiator. His career involved dealing with high-stakes, life-or-death situations where negotiation was paramount. After retiring from the FBI, Voss founded the Black Swan Group, a consulting firm that applies negotiation tactics learned from his FBI experience to business and personal negotiations. He became widely recognized through his book, Never Split the Difference, Negotiating as If Your Life Depended on It, co-authored with Tal Raz. Never Split the Difference is not just a recount of Voss's experiences, but a practical guide filled with negotiation techniques he developed and refined through years of real-world application. The book challenges traditional negotiation advice by incorporating insights from behavioral psychology, emphasizing emotional intelligence over purely rational approaches. Voss introduces concepts like tactical empathy, active listening, and the strategic use of no to gain leverage in negotiations. Applying Never Split the Difference to project management involves adopting these negotiation strategies to manage team dynamics, client expectations, and resource constraints. In project management, where negotiations happen daily, whether it's about timelines, budgets, or scope, the book's principles help in several ways. Firstly, by using tactical empathy, project managers can better understand and address the concerns of stakeholders, leading to more collaborative and less confrontational discussions. This approach fosters trust and openness, crucial for managing projects where expectations might not always align. Active listening, another core concept from Voss, encourages project managers to fully engage with what's being said, often leading to the discovery of underlying issues or needs that might not be explicitly stated. This can prevent misunderstandings and align project objectives more closely with stakeholder needs. Moreover, Voss's approach to using no as a tool in negotiation can be particularly useful in project management. It allows project managers to set boundaries while still keeping the door open for solutions, especially when negotiating scope changes or deadlines. By framing questions or statements in a way that invites a no response, you can guide discussions towards what is truly feasible or desirable, thus managing expectations without compromising project integrity. In essence, Never Split the Difference provides project managers with the psychological toolkit to navigate the human elements of project management, ensuring that negotiations lead to outcomes that are beneficial for all parties involved, while also maintaining project control and direction. From hostage situations to project negotiations, applying Never Split the Difference, following the application of verbal judo in managing tough conversations. Balancing assertiveness with empathy using Chris Voss's techniques in Never Split the Difference is a good idea. Voss shares techniques from his experience that can be directly applied to project management when you need to be both assertive in your role and empathetic to the needs and feelings of others. Here are some of Voss's insights and how they apply to project management. 1. Tactical empathy principle. Empathy is not just feeling for someone, it's understanding their perspective deeply, which Voss calls tactical empathy. Application. In project management, use phrases like, "It seems like you're really concerned about staying within budget," to demonstrate you understand their position. This acknowledgement can soften the blow of any assertive actions or decisions you need to make. The calibrated questions technique. Principle. Instead of statements, ask questions that help you understand the other party's needs, showing empathy while subtly guiding the conversation. Application. When you need to assert project deadlines or changes, ask, "How important is it for you to have this done by the original deadline?" This not only shows you care about their priorities, but also opens up a dialogue where you can assertively present constraints or alternatives. 3. Labeling emotions. Principle. Acknowledging emotions can de-escalate situations. Voss suggests labeling what the other person might be feeling to disarm negative reactions. Application. If you're about to assert changes that might upset your client, say, "It sounds like this change might be frustrating for you." This labels the emotion, offering them a chance to express or correct your perception, making your subsequent assertiveness more palatable. 4. Assertive listening. Principle. Listening isn't passive, it's an assertive act. By truly listening, you can gather information that empowers you to negotiate more effectively. Application. In discussions, practice active listening by summarizing what you've heard before asserting your point. So you're worried about the cost overruns. Here's what we can do to manage that. 5. The no technique. Principle. Voss suggests that allowing people to say no can actually lead to better outcomes because it gives them control, reducing resistance when you need to be assertive. Application. When proposing a new project timeline or budget, frame questions in a way that they can initially say no. Would it be unreasonable to adjust the timeline by 2 weeks? This might lead to a more open conversation about what adjustments are acceptable, balancing your assertiveness with their comfort. 6. Mirroring. Principle. Mirroring, or repeating the last few words someone says, can encourage them to elaborate and feel understood, aligning with empathy while maintaining your assertive stance. Application. If a client says, "I really need this project to be perfect," you might respond, "Perfect," encouraging them to explain more, which gives you leverage to assert your project management decisions with empathy. In project management, especially when you're the bearer of less than ideal news or decisions, the balance between assertiveness and empathy is delicate. Chris Voss teaches that empathy doesn't mean conceding. It's about understanding to better negotiate outcomes. By blending these insights from never split the difference with your communication, you can navigate through challenging project phases or client relations with both strength and compassion, ensuring that your assertiveness in managing the project does not come at the cost of losing trust or rapport. Master of Mayhem, Taming Project Tempests with Verbal Judo and FBI Negotiation Tactic. When I first took over Mike Oximol's project, I was unprepared for the barrage of questions and demands that awaited me. Mike had a way of making every conversation feel like a battle, with queries like, "Why isn't this in the contract?" and "Can't you just fix this?" Looking back, I see now how I could have used verbal judo and Chris Voss's negotiation techniques to manage these interactions more effectively. Using verbal judo, when Mike first exclaimed, "Why isn't this in the contract?" I could have applied verbal judo by employing empathy. Instead of getting defensive, I might have said, "I understand how important it is for you to have everything in writing. Let's review the contract together and clarify any points." This would have acknowledged his frustration while redirecting the conversation towards a solution rather than escalating the argument. Another instance was when Mike was visibly upset about the project's progress. Here, I could have used the principle of redirecting energy. Instead of meeting his irritation with my own, I could have responded with, "It sounds like you're really concerned about staying on schedule. Let's discuss how we can accelerate some aspects of the project." This would have transformed his negative energy into a collaborative effort to find a solution. When Mike asked, "Can't you just fix this?" I often felt cornered. Using verbal judo's technique of avoiding phrases that escalate situations, I could have said, "I get your urgency. Let's examine this issue and see what our best course of action is." This approach would have maintained a professional tone, avoiding the implication that his expectations were unreasonable, while still addressing the problem. One of the key lessons from verbal judo is to avoid phrases that escalate situations. Instead of saying, "You need to calm down," which Mike would have perceived as dismissive, I could have used, "I can see this is important to you. Let's talk through it step by step." This approach would have kept our dialogue professional and focused, reducing the likelihood of Mike feeling personally attacked or ignored. Applying never split the difference. Tactical empathy would have been my first tool when dealing with Mike's impatience over delays. When he questioned, "Why is this taking so long?" Instead of explaining our constraints, I could have mirrored his concern. "This delay must be really frustrating for you." This would have encouraged Mike to elaborate on his concerns, allowing me to understand what was truly at stake for him. Perhaps it wasn't just the delay, but the impact on his living situation or finances. I could have used calibrated questions to navigate his demands for immediate solutions. For example, when he insisted on a quick fix, I could have asked, "How important is it for you to have this resolved by next week?" This would have shifted the conversation from confrontation to negotiation, giving me insight into his priorities and flexibility. the no technique would have been particularly useful when Mike was resistant to changes or delays. Instead of pushing against his resistance, I could have said, would it be unreasonable to adjust the project timeline by just a few days? This approach would have given Mike the opportunity to say no, thereby giving him control over the conversation, which could lead to him being more receptive to reasonable compromises. By integrating these strategies from verbal judo and never split the difference, I could have transformed my interactions with Mike from adversarial to cooperative. When he demanded to know why something wasn't in the contract, tactical empathy would have allowed me to see beyond his anger to his need for clarity and security. Using verbal judo to redirect his frustration would have kept our discussions productive, focusing on solutions rather than blame. And by asking calibrated questions, I could have guided our conversations towards outcomes that respected both his needs and the practicalities of project management. In essence, these methods would have not only managed Mike's expectations, but also potentially turned a challenging client into a partner in the project's success, making the whole experience less about surviving Mike's outbursts and more about thriving together towards project completion.
Thank you, Speechify and Gwyneth Paltrow, for joining us on this journey through the nuances of leadership and communication.
Well, I lost half a day of skiing.
Chapter 4 really lays bare the reality that sometimes, as project managers, we have to step into the shoes of the bad guy to keep the project on track. We learned about the art of delivering bad news with grace using Dr. George J. Thompson's verbal judo, which we discussed last week in our book review. Techniques to manage emotions, expectations, and reactions, whether it's dealing with delays, unexpected costs, or changing team dynamics. These strategies helped us transform potential conflicts into opportunities for collaboration.
You're talking like a song from The Lion King. Stop that. It makes no sense.
But leadership doesn't end at communication. It extends into negotiation, which brings us seamlessly into our book of the week. Chris Voss, with his book, Never Split the Difference, teaches us how to negotiate with the precision of an FBI hostage negotiator. Voss's methods are about understanding the psychology of negotiation, using tactical empathy and the strategic power of no to guide discussions towards positive outcomes. So let's shift gears from being the bad guy to mastering the art of negotiation in project management and in high-stress situations. Stay tuned as we dive into how Voss's insights can help us manage not just projects, but people and expectations with finesse. We'll talk about turning every negotiation into a win-win scenario right after this. Welcome back to the Hard Knock University podcast. This week, we're exploring a book that's reshaped how I approach negotiation in project management. Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Unlike any typical negotiation guide, Voss, with his background as an FBI hostage negotiator, provides a deep dive into the human elements of negotiation, focusing on empathy, psychology, and tactical strategies. The essence of Voss's book is that traditional negotiation methods often overlook the emotional and psychological aspects of human interaction. He introduces us to concepts like tactical empathy, where you not only listen, but actively show you understand the other party's perspective. This is vital in project management when you're navigating through complex stakeholder interactions or team disputes. One practical technique from Voss that I've integrated into my work is the use of calibrated questions. Instead of pushing my agenda when faced with resistance, I now ask questions like, what's your biggest concern with the project? This method shifts the conversation from confrontation to collaboration, helping to uncover underlying needs or fears that might not be immediately apparent. Voss also teaches the counterintuitive power of no. In the world of projects where you often need to say no to unrealistic demands or changes, framing these situations with a question like, would it be a problem to adjust the timeline by a few days? Allows the other party to feel in control, reducing defensiveness and opening up to constructive dialogue. Applying these techniques has changed the way I handle project negotiations. For example, when discussing budget cuts or scope changes, using empathy and strategic questioning has turned potentially explosive meetings into productive discussions. It's about understanding what motivates each stakeholder, whether it's the fear of project failure or the desire for quality, and addressing those motivations head on. This approach has been particularly useful in dealing with change orders or when managing client expectations. By employing active listening and empathy, I've managed to clarify misunderstandings and align expectations in ways that foster agreement rather than conflict. Instead of dictating terms, I engage with their concerns, which often results in more harmonious resolutions. The bottom line is this: Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss isn't just another negotiation guide. It's a fresh perspective on dealing with people and project management. It's about understanding, not just persuading. I urge anyone looking to up their negotiation game in project management or beyond to give this book a read. Its insights can truly transform how you navigate conversations, turning them into avenues for growth and success. Now that we've explored how negotiation can redefine our approach to project management, let's bring in some real-world expertise. Stay tuned for my interview with Mark Sebby, a musician, artist manager, radio promoter, and chart editor who knows a thing or two about navigating through negotiations, especially as it pertains to the music industry. We're going to dive into how he handles the bad guy role, when the situation calls for it, and how these principles from Never Split the Difference play out in this world. That's next on the Hard Knock University podcast. Okay, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I've got Mark Sebby with me. Thanks for joining us. Mark, you wear many hats: a musician, artist manager, radio promoter, chart editor. Can you give us a brief overview of how you ended up in all of these roles?
It's kind of one of those things where it's the dumb luck thing. I've always been one of those people that, I've got like all these ideas in my head, right? And do you have the time to put them into action? And so basically what happened was I was a touring professional musician, running the circuit, doing, the Texas Red Dirt thing and Americana. And COVID hit, and I had to restructure because anybody that went through that as a touring artist, and I was doing great, man. I was playing 200 plus shows a year, and either acoustic or full band, whatever, On top of that, I'd already started kind of dabbling in the radio stations in the chart, prior to that when I was working at Rebecca Creek Distillery as a talent buyer. So I was doing all of that while I was touring too, and running all the stuff over there for the live entertainment for Rebecca Creek with the help of the entertainment director, Rick Acosta over there. And that was a great group. That's where it really started. I launched Texas Internet Radio. Shortly after that, I saw the need for the Texas Internet Radio chart, which would be Texas's first internet radio station only chart that was actually monitored, not a write-in chart. And so I started that, and COVID hit. I got off stage, and I'd already been dabbling with some radio promotion with Drew Moreland, who's one of my long-term clients with Sebby Music Group. That's like the big umbrella. Everything falls under that. The radio station, everything falls under Sebby Music Group. The charts, everything. Stax, which is a music distribution service that I have that distributes internationally and nationwide. From there, man, it was one project after another. I had a TV network for a little while that got really expensive, and there was not a whole lot of return on income, so I canned that project. It's been a ride, man. It really has. There's that part of you after, we're 5 years into our Texas Internet Radio chart, and this year we launched the Americana chart, which is a national hybrid chart. So kind of the first hybrid chart where you have some monitored stations and some write-in stations. So it's been a ride, man.
Yeah. So did you go to a school or a college to learn about the
I went to the school of hard knocks.
You figured it out on your own, just kind of doing it for yourself?
I studied a lot of coding. I got to give a lot of credit to Ben Solomon, who originally developed the database for the Texas Internet Radio chart and has slowly over the past 5 years taught me how to code, taught me how to use JSON, taught me how to use all of that good stuff and use the tools that are out there. There's a lot of technology to help you nowadays. I mean, pretty much anything you want to learn, if you want to learn it and you apply yourself, you can find video, you can do your research, and you can learn to do it. If my dumb self can do it, not shoot myself down. I'm actually a pretty intelligent guy, I'm told.
No, clearly.
I feel like it sometimes. I'm like, then why did I start all these projects that don't make money?
It's a diversification.
Yeah.
So you, as a struggling musician, singer-songwriter, you started to do these things for yourself and then decided, you know what, I might as well make money doing it for other people too.
There's a part of that. I mean, I do a lot of stuff out of heart. I've been known to do a lot of scholarships.
Try to make money doing it for other people.
I gotta make a living. I gotta scratch a living. There was a place in time pre-COVID where I was doing really great, man. And that was just on touring and doing the stuff at Rebecca Creek and everything like that, when everything was pumping and going, and then COVID hit, and it just really the last 4 years have been different in the music industry. For COVID, it changed a lot of things.
Yeah. Do you want to elaborate on how it's changed things?
Well, streaming was already there, but I think the live streaming podcast, presentations being done, live, concerts.
People learned how to polish it.
They did. We learned a lot of editing because we had nothing better to do, which was good for all of us. We learned about a lot of software. We learned about a lot of different programs that are out there. I know we're using Zoom right now. I'm a huge, StreamYard is my absolute favorite. If you haven't checked that out, it'll run you about $50 a month. It's a pain in the butt expense, but it is superb for streaming and doing these type of things and recording and everything. Zoom works perfectly fine on a budget and does what we need it to do. And use it sometimes too. I use a lot of things. I use Audacity to do radio voiceovers.
Audacity is great, man. People knock it.
Free open source,
Yeah, people knock it, but it's like, for what it is, especially if you're just trying to like edit, a track and not, some multi-track editing and stuff. Dude, it's great. All the tools.
You know how to use it. You'd be surprised what you can do with it. They have
100%
plugins that they've developed and adapted. I mean, the program's come a long way. If you looked at it 7 years ago, it was very lackluster. But these days, if you actually have studied and used it and kept up with it, you've got the plugins and everything, it's pretty amazing what that program can do for absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and they're constantly updating it. And that's what a lot of people that start knocking on it, they're like, oh, man, I used it 10 years ago. And it's like, back up, dude. It is not what it was 10 years ago.
The biggest thing, I guess, that I do is charts, radio promotion, and artist management currently. And it grew into that. I had some sidetracks and distractions like we talk about. I got rid of the TV network. Artist X I thought it would blow up a lot more than it did. So I kind of shelved that to the side. I still use it. I use it more for my clients because there's a lot of promoters that don't have those contacts I've built over 20 years. And basically what Artist X does is for $69, you can get your song out to over 5,000 people, not just radio stations, not just, a playlist and all that. Those are all included in that, but it's also industry professionals, management companies, booking agencies. Everybody's getting your releases. So they're able to find out about you and do a little bit. And I just thought that at that price point, that was a no-brainer for people. And some people use it, some people don't. If you use it, great. If you don't, that's fine too. But it is out there, and it's only $69 per single.
It's like that.
Okay. Yeah, average price in the industry for any kind of distribution out to radio is about $150 and up. There's some stuff like Play MPE. You can spend $2,000 on a campaign in no time.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's before you pay your promoter.
Yeah.
So guys, the promoters are not the bad guys, man. There's so many people with their hands and fingers in the pie.
100%. Okay. Trying to get back on theme, and you segued perfect. I appreciate that. What unique challenges come with being both a musician and an artist manager, and how do you navigate potential conflicts of interest?
The biggest thing is the conflicts of interest, and it's taken me, the past 7 years to realize, I was an artist, but I also have this role to play. But you really, you have to remember that even though you sympathize or empathize with an artist because you've been there, that you also have a job to do as a part of their team, whether that is artist management, which is probably the toughest job, is telling guys, you're not ready. That instantly puts you in that bad guy role because as well as I know, being a musician, that's our baby. Songs be right, they're our babies. our mom and our cousins and our friends have all told us how wonderful we are. And everybody that all 10 people that show up to all of our shows and are number one super fans. You know, I think the bad guy part comes in when you have to break somebody's, you know, ego and heart to help them grow. And it's essential for all of us to grow, that we get some constructive criticism and feedback, but more importantly, as an artist, that we know how to accept that constructive criticism and feedback, that it's not an attack on our person, our music, our livelihood. It's somebody that really believes in us and is trying to make us a better act, a better artist, and trying to move the needle forward for us.
Yeah, somebody once told me my music is not commercially viable, and I've yet to recover from that comment.
You know what? That's a scar that lies with you because that experience triggered you in a certain way, and it could have had something to do way back with your past. My suggestion to you would be to take that as the biggest compliment you've ever gotten in your life.
I took it as a marketing opportunity. Now I tagline everything with it.
It's a good way to look at that and a good way to to spin that around to your advantage. But also, man, to me, that was a compliment. And what I mean by that, to me, that breeds that what you do right and what you do, Mark, is authentic. And authenticity has a huge place in today's music world with all the, no offense to anybody out there, but let's be honest, with all the crap that's out there.
Sure. Yeah.
There's a lot of subpar music out there.
Yeah. So on that emotional aspect, how do you manage, the emotional aspect of being a musician when you're also managing other artists' careers?
That's probably one of my biggest challenges, because I do empathize and sympathize with a lot of situations that my clients, and I've had friends that are clients too, guys like Drew Moreland I've worked with for 9 years in radio promotion and kind of on the side, doing consultation and management as a friend, which has led us to the point we're at now. And, we're 11 singles in, and he just dropped a brand new album, and things had changed in his life, and he was ready to get to that next level. And, we're going to take him on as artist management. Sebby Music Group will be his artist management. I've lined up a couple decent booking agents to help him with that aspect of it. We're looking at some different opportunities, but to get back to the question that you asked, that's probably one of the hardest clients that they got to work with when a guy's your best friend and you have to be his boss and also a mentor. And, he's seen your crazy wild side when you were on stage, you know what I mean? And all the parties and all the good stuff like that goes on behind the scenes. It just got to a point where I grew up and I realized that it wasn't about getting drunk and having a party every night, that I have a job to do. And when you start treating this like a business, it gets really good. But the emotional stuff that goes on when you come from my background where you were an artist and then you go into artist management or radio promotion, it happens with every client, not even the ones that you're closest to, because you see things that you've been through before. And it's almost like being like a dad, you're like, man, I just don't want you to go through what I went through when I made this terrible decision. You know what I mean?
Learn from my mistake, please.
Yeah. I'm like, hey, you know what? I might not be the best artist management or the best radio promoter out there. I'm not trying to be, but I'm the guy that's going to show you what not to do, because I've done it all.
Yeah. So radio promotion is undoubtedly a tough gig. What are some of the toughest parts of getting a song on the radio, and how do you deal with rejection and pushback?
First of all, let's address rejection, because that applies to everybody, whether you're in my role, you're a songwriter, you're an artist, you're a booking agent, whatever. Rejection is an opportunity to grow.
Sure. Yeah.
Rejection isn't a bad thing. Sometimes it's not pleasant. It's not what we want to hear. I will give you a little short story. I'll keep it very short and brief, of a reflection in my own career. I had wanted to play this venue. I'm not going to name the venue, not going to name any of the people involved.
Fair enough.
I had to play this venue for about 3 years, and I thought I was ready for it. I knew I was the right fit for that venue. I beat them up with emails and would go by and visit the bar manager and the talent buyer, and knew all the people there, and they all loved me and they loved what I did. But hindsight 2020, I finally got an opportunity to play there, and it did not go well. And it didn't go well because I wasn't a fit there. And even though I thought I was a fit, this was a big lesson I learned. We're not fit at every single venue. Just because so-and-so is playing there doesn't mean you belong there. Yeah. And you really got to humble yourself and check your ego and realize, hey, I'm not a fit everywhere. So rejection is a good thing, because it shows us what we have to improve on to turn that no into a yes.
Yeah.
That is an opportunity that we want to pursue or something that we would like to get a yes to. We really need to do some self-evaluation, look at ourselves and say, okay, why did I get rejected? And not look at it as a bad thing. Look at it as an opportunity to grow. Okay, well, and that's a great thing to say. If someone says, I just don't think you're a fit for this venue, you know what? I can really appreciate and respect that, Mark. And I know that you have to take care of your clients and you have to get the best talent you can that fits your clientele. In order to help me grow as an artist, could you please cite some specific examples that led you to feel that I might not be a fit for your venue, just to help me better understand how I can improve moving forward for venues like yours? And some of them will give you what you need, and some of them are just full of BS and they don't like you. And that's okay too. Not everybody has. What other people think about you or me, Mark, is none of our business.
Right. Yeah. As a project manager in the construction industry, we live and die these days by reviews and those 5 stars. You need those 5 stars every single time. And so to kind of, prep the customer to leave that 5-star review and make sure that I'm earning it, I'll oftentimes ask after a walkthrough, it could be midway through the project. I'll say, hey, on a scale from 1 to 5, how do you feel about everything so far? And sometimes they'll be like, I'm at a 3.5 or I'm at a 4. And I always ask, well, tell me, what am I doing wrong? What
does it take to get a 5?
Yeah. How do I earn that 1.5 that you're not giving me yet, And it's those hard conversations that give you a learning opportunity and a stepping stone to level up to the next point. You know what I mean?
You'd asked the question in the first question, and I think we only addressed the one issue. You had asked also, what are the biggest challenges on getting a song to radio?
Oh, yeah.
For all of you new guys that are just now going to go and you're watching this and you're going to take your first song to radio and you're looking to hire a radio promoter, please understand, some people in the industry may disagree with me on this, but I'm going to be real honest. In my honest experience, you need about 3 years of pushing singles to radio before you're ever going to make any traction. So if you go out and hire the biggest and baddest promoter right off the rip, you're going to be spending a lot of your budget establishing relationships that you could build a different way. You could do awareness campaigns with another promoter. They might not, it's not about chart numbers. It's about building those relationships with those stations, those program directors, and the people in the industry. And you need to let your promoter do that the first year or two. You need to stay out of the mix. You need to thank the stations that are spinning you. If they tell you a station's spinning you, tag them. Tag your promoter and stuff. Man, I see a lot of guys that have great promoters that never mention their promoters, their teams, nothing. It's them. Guys, stop doing that, man. You need to let people know who you're working with, who your team is. You need to give them a little bit of a pat on the back and let them know that you respect them. Also, loyalty is a huge thing to a lot of the people that are in the back end of this on the professional side of the industry. And I'm talking to you guys as an artist right now. Don't forget how important loyalty is. If you don't like a job someone's doing, be honest with them. I'm really not liking this, and have that difficult conversation with them and say, well, here's the biggest thing, Mark. I wanted to get that top 50. I really wanted the top 50. Okay, I understand that. Say your name's Tim, hey, Tim, I told you from the beginning, we got about 2 years of hard work before you can have those kind of expectations. If it happens to happen before then that just means we're doing a great job and that the songs are where they need to be. Hardest thing is production quality. The hardest thing is artists not having the budget to where even a promoter that's willing to do it for less could really do them justice, because there's distribution fees. There's different sources you can use, but it costs money. I don't, with my radio promotion campaigns with new artists, I don't let them buy banner ads. I think that's BS. For spends, AKA payola. If y'all don't think it's going on, it is. I don't let them buy radio station banner ads. If they want to sponsor something for a chart or a radio station, that's fine. But not banner ads that are click per spend. You understand what I mean by that?
Yes.
So like maybe the last 50 times to get 50 spends for your thing, but you pay $300 to put the banner up there. Well, you just engage in payola, in my honest opinion. And that is no metric of how good your song is.
Yeah. So, all right. Can you share a story where, you felt like the bad guy, and how you handled the situation?
I absolutely can. There was an artist, of course, I'm not going to name any artist or anything. I really respected the hell out of his songwriting. I mean, the guy was a phenomenal songwriter. And he approached me for a campaign. I guess he wanted to try me out or whatever and see if I could do something better than his current promoter. And he approached me in the middle of a campaign to jump on. And I'm like, nope. I said, I'll do your next song for you, but I'm not going to step on this guy's toes. You got a radio promoter. And that's a huge thing too. There's a lot of snakes in the grass that'll jump right in the middle of your campaign. You're promoting an artist. They know it good and well. And these are promoters that have been around for a while, and they'll just suck up that artist and suck up that money, like that. And they're not doing the right thing for the artist. And so anyway, I promoted the song and I prefaced it with, hey guy, this is your second song to radio. I don't know if I can do any better than your current promoter. And I was like, we've got a lot to develop here. I looked at his website. His website was terrible. Social media was terrible. There was a lot of development that needed to happen there. He didn't have a bunch of shows on the books. I'm like, you're really not ready for radio yet. You don't have anything to tour on to get to these cities you need to get to meet these people and develop those relationships. So let's do more of an awareness campaign on your next song. And let's start working on building up this, that, and the other. And so I challenged him to develop a team. And he started working on a team, and that fizzled out. He got busy touring. Nothing was happening on the back end of where I was asking him to do the work. And I'm doing all this work on promotion. And I think we got the second song he ever had. We beat the other promoter, had him in the 80s. We got him in the 60s on the T3R and got him on the TCMC right around 50. And, of course, on my charts, he was a little higher, but that's just my chart's that nature. The newer guys do better on my charts because it's a newer chart. There's less competition. So they're going to do better on my chart. Then I got this call from him and he was like, man, this is a top 30, top 20 song. And I'm like, Bubba, no, it's not. And I had to be the bad guy. And I had to tell him, I go, you really need to get into another studio. You need a different producer. We need to up that sound if you want a top 20. If you want to break a top 40, we're going to have to use a different strategy because where you're recording it, the production and quality aren't there. And I had numerous emails from guys that are like, I love this dude's songwriting, but for our station, the production quality is not there, Mark. I can't at all. And he's not charting at the right spot for me to justify going to my boss and saying, hey, as program director, I know I'm not supposed to spend anything that's not in the top 40, but I really like the song, which, let's be honest, some of them have the leeway to do that. And some of them don't. When you get told that somebody's not going to spin your song, guys, do not throw a fit, man. It might just be that song. Your next song might be the one that they give you 40 spins a week on or 20 or whatever. And going after, if you're brand new to this, quit going after those mega stations, mega terrestrial. They're not going to spin you till you have a top 20. They're just not. I mean, it's very rare unless they have some special programming where they're highlighting up and coming artists that you're going to get anything out of that. And if you do, you might be lucky to get 1 to 7 spins a week on those big stations.
Yeah.
You're going to need them in the long run to get that number 1, to get the top 20. You will need them. There's no way to get there without it. There really is. You can't rely on just internet and small market to get there. You might break the 60s and 50s with that strategy, but eventually you're going to have to hit the large market and the mega terrestrial to be able to get there.
Yeah. In the music industry, ethical lines can sometimes blur. What ethical considerations do you keep in mind as a promoter, especially when it comes to chart manipulation and all pay at play?
Man, that's a big thing. Naturally, everybody assumes that, first of all, I'm not going to work a song I don't believe in or work with an artist I don't believe in. So if I don't like your music, I'm going to tell you no. All right. So there's one ethical principle I have. Even if you got more money than God and you're offering me double.
That's an instance where you got to be the bad guy.
An instance where I have to be a bad guy again. We're in the middle of a campaign and you start doing stupid stuff on social media and you're representing my name and my brand too. And I make this very clear. It's in my contracts. If you do that, I'll pull your song and I'll stop promoting. You're not getting a refund. You have to act right. You have to remember that all the people that are helping you, when you associate with somebody, you're just sharing that name. So that's an instance I've had to be a bad guy. I've had to pull a song before. Only one in 6 years of being a radio promoter. I pulled one song and the guy really did something terrible. But he did. And it was a tough conversation because he was a friend of mine. And I'm like, you don't get to act like that because you're my friend, man. I was like, that doesn't excuse your behavior. I told you it's in your contract. Sorry, I got pulled this song. And it cost me a friendship. Business cost me a friendship. So ethical and moral principles, I don't believe in lying. I don't believe in cheating. Whenever we choose awards for our chart, it's based off of merit. In other words, it's based off a number of spins. We have very few categories that people vote on, the public votes on, because I feel like somebody with a bigger following can manipulate that. And it doesn't really justify who the best artist is.
Yeah.
And let's be honest.
Justified so as the most TikTok followers.
Right. Texas music scene, I love to do. It's a huge thing. Here this last year, I made the decision in 2024 that I'm doing more national radio promotion. I still do Texas campaigns, but I'm doing more Americana and national because I feel like the artists that are spending this money deserve to be heard by as many people as they can.
Sure, 100%.
And I know that they feel the same way because I'm an artist. I want everybody that can hear my song, if I'm spending money marketing it. And that's really what a radio advertising is, guys. It's marketing. You're investing in advertising and marketing. And you're hiring basically the promoter is your advertiser. That is the guy that has the connections. That side of the industry you don't have, and that's what you're paying him for, his connections.
Yes.
Stop asking for the list. You're never going to get it. Quit asking. Go to do what I did for 20 years and build your own damn list.
Do people really ask for your little?
I get clients all the time. I need to list the radio station.
Give me your black book. Yeah.
You know, and it's all
That's bananas.
Contact the chart editor and ask him for a list of the reporting stations. You're not going to get contact info. Well, what am I paying you for? Paying me for the connections and me to call them and do it for you.
Yeah.
You're paying me to hand you a list, which you couldn't afford anyway. I'll tell you what, anybody listening out there, if you would like my list with over 6,000 different industry contacts worldwide, I will sell it to you for $300,000 right now.
There you go.
I'm gonna send you my Venmo QR and might as
well just list it on eBay, man.
Pop up 2 little QR codes. Anybody that would like to take Sebby up on this offer? Honestly, the list is worth nothing if you don't have the relationship. They will block you. They will spam you. They will hang up on you. They don't know you. Stop asking for the list from your people. Build your own list. Stop being lazy.
Yeah, I like that.
Build your own list. Build your own relationships. Maintain relationships.
100%. Yeah, and it's the same way in construction. You know, you can't. You know, I have a lot of subcontractors. I'm not going to give you the phone numbers of my subcontractor.
You would be out of business if you did that.
Yeah, and I don't work with subcontractors that are going to share their number with you. You know what I mean? My subcontractors know because we're family that take care of these people. Well, to be fair, I'm not their family, but I take care of these people and they take care of me. Somebody told me a long time ago, take care of your people and your money will take care of itself.
That's right.
And so you take care of these people, and in return, you know, if a homeowner says, hey, man, let me get your number, they're like, if you need anything, ask Mark. You know what I mean?
One of my favorite sayings, and this is awesome, you know, I do a lot of self-help stuff and a lot of spiritual searching and stuff these days, especially after getting off a stage and realizing, whoa, I was kind of a train wreck myself. And that's me being transparent and honest. That's one thing I am. I'm very honest when you talk about morals, values, and standards. I can speak about all the stupid stuff that I did in my career that cost me to spin my wheels for the better part of 10 years when I should have been on a way higher level. And had I been focused and I knew everything I knew now, I may have been, maybe not.
Yeah.
But I don't look at it and regret any of those experiences.
Go ahead.
One saying, don't try.
Dude, isn't that Yoda?
No, don't try. Like, seriously, stop trying. Stop trying so hard and be who you are and be authentic.
Okay.
Have work ethic, have morals, values, and standards, but stop trying so hard and quit thinking that there's shortcuts, guys. There are no shortcuts. This is all a grind. You talk to any of those guys, Kevin Fowler, Cody Cannon, any of them people, Wade Bowen, that have been doing this, and ask them what they've been through. And if you're not willing to go through all of that, you might as well keep that construction day job and just play on the weekends and do cover tunes and enjoy life. I'm not trying to squash dreams or say it's not possible. There is like 2% out there that get lucky and write one song, and all of a sudden they're, you know, the next, what is that Oliver guy?
It's a good song. I liked it.
He deserved to get what he got, man. The guy's, have you listened to his other stuff? He's a hell of a songwriter.
I haven't dove into it, but you felt the emotion he put into it, and you know, he meant what he said, and I liked it. Okay, circling back to what you were talking about a little bit ago, in your past and coming up and making decisions that led you to learn things the hard way. Tell us an instance where you had to make a decision that felt right at the time, but, you know, kind of made you question things later in life, and you learn something the hard way.
That's a really good one. There's just so many of them, Mark. One of the hardest things and lessons that I ever learned, I was touring with a band out of Arizona that had asked me to fill in for a bass player that had left the band. And I'm not really a bass player, and I knew that, and they knew that. And I got in this role, and it was so much fun. I let my ego get to me. And I've never done this in my entire career. And it's one of my most shameful moments, too. There was a female involved that I had eyes on and crush for. And, of course, the lead singer, who was a very charismatic guy, met this girl, and her and I had been talking for a while, kind of going out, having fun, whatever. And we go on break during one of these shows while we're on tour, and I go out to the van to go grab a pack of cigarettes, and he's in there doing his thing with her.
Oh, no.
And that was a very awkward situation. Now, I did the professional thing. I finished the show and acted like I didn't know what was going on, and finished the show that night. This played out and kept going on for a couple of weeks. We had about 10 or 11 more dates in Texas to fill, and we had traveled from Arizona back to Texas, and I had booked up pretty much all these gigs for them here in Texas with my connections and sources, so they could start their Texas touring stuff. And not only, you know, did I help them with that, some other stuff. Here's this guy, knowing that I was trying to hook up with this girl, like this girl, been dating this girl, and he did that to her. And so I think eventually it started really getting to me. And we played a gig out in Canyon Lake, actually, at a bar that I had booked us at. It was just a fill gig. And that night I just had enough of it, man. And I got through the second set, and we had one more set to do. And I just walked off stage and walked out to my car and put my gear bag in the car. I was using their bass rig, but I put my gear bag in the car with all my extra strings, picks, everything, mics, all my other extra cords and everything. And I drove off, and I didn't return to the show. And hindsight 2020, that was the wrong thing to do. I should have finished the tour out and not let my personal emotions get involved about some chick that doesn't even mount to a hill of beans now, 10 years later. We're not even friends, and why? So guys, the moral of that story and the hard lesson that was learned there, and being the bad guy, I was a bad guy because I walked off the stage. You don't do that to even if you're a fill-in, even if you're a hired gun, you just don't do that. It's not professional. Wasn't professional for me to do that. That's a blemish in my career and something I can't take back ever. And that was probably one of the most defining, terrible things that I did in my career that I regretted. And the outcome of it was it destroyed the relationship with all the guys in the band, obviously. It destroyed the relationship with that girl. And it also destroyed a lot of things within inside of me and my peace. And I allowed it to, and that's why. Instead of taking that moment as, let me be happy for them. They obviously like each other. No big deal, man. We're in a band. Go do your thing. That's my attitude, man. And it took a long time for me to grow up,
Yeah. So what's one piece of advice that you'd give to someone starting out in any of the roles the many hats that you wear, especially about, dealing with times where you feel like the bad guy?
If I turn it to the side, it's a new hat. If I turn a different hat, if I turn it around, there's a hat. I would say don't do it. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. Don't quit your day job. That's not true, guys. The best piece of advice that I could give anybody that's new and starting this, be humble and take it slow. You have a lot of things to do. You need to be rehearsing. You need to be practicing whatever instrument you play, or if you're a singer, you need to be doing vocal lessons. You need to be in songwriter groups. You need to play open mics. You need to go out to songwriter circles. You have to constantly be sharpening that sword. You need to study up on social media. You need to have a good website. You've got to be active and engaged with your fans. You got to have good content to put out there so you can build a fan base. I do recommend fan loyalty clubs if you need some help with that. Sebby Music Group does them. There's a shameless plug. And then you just got to really be humble, and you've got to take your time. This is not an overnight success. I tell people getting started, if you're not ready to put in at least 10 years of hard work, don't start.
100%. Yeah. With anything,
10 years of hard work before you're going to even scratch the surface of climbing out of the valley of despair.
I'm going to butcher this, but they say something along the lines of, when you're starting a business, only like 70% of them don't survive 2 years.
Right.
And then of the ones that do survive the first 2 years, 70% of those ain't going to make it to 5 or 8. You know what I mean? You get a lot to drop out and don't make it, and the ones that do put in the work. So looking towards the future, where do you see the future of radio promotion and artist management heading, especially with, the evolving ways that people consume music?
That's a tough question, and it's hard to see where it's going. I recently took a class and got a certification through NYU in a program that they do that has to do with radio, television, and film. And I did that so I could see where the trends were going and what was going on, and so I could get a refresher course. I think the thing that you need to do is you need to study what's going on in the environment and in the industry that you're working in. You got to keep up with the technology. You got to keep up with the changes. There's no way to predict the future, but you do need to be on the cutting edge of technology, especially with AI and everything. If you're not comfortable with it, it's not going to go away, guys. Learn it. There are some very big things. I think that our jobs are all in jeopardy. I really do. I think AI could completely develop something that could be your virtual manager. They're already doing virtual girlfriends. Yeah, they've got these in Houston. They got this place that has these basically a robot brothel with robotic women that you can. Yeah. Because translate that into any business.
Yeah, I haven't thought about the concept of AI manager.
Absolutely. Why couldn't it work?
Yeah.
Guy behind the scenes that has all the connections and he develops an AI program.
I mean, as a project manager in the construction industry, I'd like to think that AI couldn't do my job.
But it could.
It could. But
it's going to do the same job.
Here's the thing about AI is it's dependent on the inputs. Like what is, the person on this side of the keyboard putting into that, or what are you feeding that AI that it's using to create?
That's right. What's it going to ping? What is it going to search for? Where is it going to search?
Yeah.
Where's so get its answers?
If I release an original song tomorrow, as of today, that AI doesn't have that song. You know what I mean? It's not a part of the algorithm yet. So as long as you stay on the cutting edge and you stay ahead of the AI and you keep it original and you keep giving it your best and be the best and try to aspire to be the cream of the crop, you're going to be ahead of the AI.
You will. You're not wrong there. I really think also, the industry in the future, I think streaming has made its mark. And I think we've all figured out how to embrace it, deal with it to a degree. But there's something bigger that's coming. And I don't know what it is, but I feel it in my bones. There's going to be something else. I mean, now we've gone from vinyl to 8-track to cassette to CD, now to streaming. What's next?
Yeah.
What's next?
Something new.
There's something new. There's got something new. There really is, but we don't know what it is yet. And whoever creates it or invents it's probably going to be very, very successful and wealthy unless it gets stolen from them.
It's going to be that.
And all you other professionals out there and artists,
it's going to be beaming songs directly into people's heads. So I got this song stuck in my head, because they're
literally
there.
So what's chip implant that they pre-program what they're going to send to you based off of all of your social score or whatever, all this crud that they talk about, man, it's insane, but the stuff is going on. Everybody's like, man, Sebby, you're crazy. I'm like, no, I really have done my research. All of this stuff is going on in the background. You guys are the ones that are not informed.
Yeah, I feel you there, man. So what's the next big project or challenge that you're excited about in your career?
So we've got the 5th annual Texas Internet Radio Chart Awards coming up, and the Internet Radio Association, the Texas Internet Radio Association Awards coming up. We're not doing the Americana Awards, obviously. We haven't had a full year of that yet, but it will be brought up and introduced and all that during that. That's going to be on May 18th in Canyon Lake at the Goopy's Bar and Grill Event Center. And we'll have sponsorship packages, tickets, and all that rolled out here into the month, the first of next month. So be looking for that.
It's like an all-day event. You're doing multiple
It's going to be
stages.
from like 3 to 9.
Okay.
3 in the afternoon, doors open, and then 9 o'clock, the event will be over. Kayla Jane opens for Drew Moreland as the headliner. We got a bunch of great acoustic acts from all over, not just Texas. Because remember, we got that Americana chart now. I've got a couple artists, one from Oregon and another one coming in from Michigan that'll be performing, which is really exciting, man, that we're getting some people outside of Texas to attend that event. That was the goal. The whole time was, of course, yes, Texas, and this is where I live. This is my home, but why are we limiting ourselves to that? It's a good, fun day. It's going to be a family-friendly event. I do encourage anybody that's interested in finding out more. You can go over to TexasInternetRadioChart.com, and you can get more information as it becomes available. But the biggest project I've got in 2025 is expanding my radio promotion nationwide, doing the stuff with the Americana side of things. There's a lot of competition there, and there's a lot of really good radio promoters that are very good at their job that I can learn from. And I take challenges like that as a learning experience. The other big project is stepping into a full-time management role with Drew Moreland and his team as an artist management. That's going to be a big thing that we're going to do this year. So I'm really looking forward to those. But, a big personal challenge is me just being a better me every day when I wake up. That's the biggest challenge I've got going on this year is wake up and be a better radio promoter, better artist management, better human being, better brother, better sister, whatever. Wake up and be a better person every day and try to learn from your mistakes from the day before.
I love it. What's one thing that you wish people had a little more empathy about and understood about some of the difficult roles that you play in the music industry?
It's not your radio promoter's fault if your song doesn't do good. It's just not. No, it really isn't. I wish more musicians would realize that. When you start to get to that point where you think it's somebody else's fault, you need to look in the mirror and identify your role in the problem. Because we all have one. There is no perfection whatsoever, not in our personalities, not in our work, not in anything we do. We're humans. We're flawed.
100%.
Look in the mirror and instead of identifying a problem and moaning and complaining and bitching about the problem, let's work together and find a solution. Okay. So maybe this wasn't the single, even though you thought it was and your mama told you it was, and you fought me when I told you it wasn't, and you insisted that we push this single. Now you found out the hard way. There's one case that you get to be the bad guy. The song's not going to do good, but you need to teach them a lesson. So you let them make the call.
Yeah.
And it could cost you a client.
Because sometimes you got to learn by the hard knocks.
That's it, man. And I love the title of it. And that was why I said yes immediately. I'm like, yeah, I'm a hard knocks guy. This is totally me.
Yeah. All right, man. Where can listeners find your work or hear your music or learn more about SMG Music Group and the artists that you manage?
SebbyMusicGroup.com is a great place to go to find a lot of stuff about me. You can find me on Facebook at Mark Sebby, Sebby. You can go to MarkSebby.com. There's Artist X, there's, Texas Internet Radio Chart. I run 2 stations, Canyon Lake Community Radio and Texas Internet Radio. Everywhere. Just Google my name, Mark Sebby. You'll find it all.
Rock and roll, man. Thank you so much for being on the show. Let's do this again sometime.
For having me, brother. And thank you for our first virtual meeting together.
Yeah, man. Let's do lunch sometime and do this in person.
Absolutely. I think we're close enough we can make that pull up, right?
I think so. I'm in Spring Branch. Yeah.
Come on, dude.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to do that sooner than later, man.
I love it. All right. Good night, brother. Thank you so much.
God bless you, man. Thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Yep. Bye.
Good luck to you.
All right, everyone. Before we wrap up today's episode, I want to invite you, our listeners, to share your own stories with us.
I don't.
We all learn some of the most valuable lessons the hard way, and that's something we can all relate to. Whether you're in project management, another profession, or just navigating life's challenges, I'm looking for stories where you faced a situation where things didn't go as planned, where you learned a significant lesson from not having all the answers or making a mistake.
Milk was a bad choice.
These stories don't have to be specific to project management. They can be from any aspect of life or work where a hard lesson was learned the hard way. Here's how you can share your story with us. On our Facebook group page, join the Hard Knock University podcast group on Facebook. There, You can post your story, share it with the group, and let's get the conversation started there. It's a great place to connect with other listeners and share experiences and learn from each other. You can also comment on the YouTube video version of this podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, and you should be if you're not, drop your story in the comment section below the video. It's an easy way to share, and you can see what others are contributing also.
Now you listen to me, mister. I work for a living. And I mean real work, not writing down gobbledygook.
We promise that some of the best, most insightful, or even the most humorous stories will be featured in future episodes of the podcast. Not only will you get your moment in the spotlight, but your experience could help others avoid similar pitfalls or gain perspective on their own challenges. So think back to a time when you thought you had it all figured out, only to be proven otherwise, or when you learned something valuable through adversity. We want to hear about those moments of growth, no matter how tough they were at the time. Your stories are what make this community rich, and I can't wait to read them and share them with everyone here. So let's learn from each other's hard knocks, and maybe even turn those lessons into laughter or wisdom for our next episodes.
My mom always said life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
I want to go ahead and read one. Friend of the podcast, Chris Day, says on the Facebook group page, "Lesson I learned the hard way, never hire your family. It not only makes uncomfortable conversations more uncomfortable, it changes the dynamics of the relationship." Chris shares a hard-learned lesson about the complexities of working with family, and I wish he had told the story of how he learned that lesson, but I do understand why he might not want to elaborate too much. Thank you, Chris, and I can definitely relate, dude. I've worked with my brother for decades. We were even business partners at one point. That didn't quite turn out the way that we had hoped, but I still hire him for jobs where he has significant expertise. I believe it's definitely possible to work with family, but it does require setting clear expectations and maintaining accountability. It can indeed make conversations more uncomfortable, but because it's family, it's even more crucial to handle these dynamics with care and professionalism.
Maybe, maybe not. Maybe fuck yourself.
Thanks again, Chris, for sharing, and I hope my commentary helps. Everybody else, please head on over to our Facebook group page or leave a comment on YouTube. Share your story, and let's keep this conversation going. Thanks for being a part of the Hard Knock University podcast family, and I'll see you in the stories we all share together. Well, folks, that wraps up another enlightening episode of the Hard Knock University podcast. Today, we explored Chapter 4 of the Hard Knock School of Project Management, titled Sometimes You're the Bad Guy, where we tackled the tough reality of having to make those unpopular decisions in people management. We also delved into the art of negotiation with insights from Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference, learning how to navigate these moments with empathy and strategy. We were joined by Mark Sebby, who provided a unique perspective on managing those bad guy moments in the music industry. The lesson from today is clear. In project management, and indeed in life, sometimes you have to step into the role of the bad guy. Not out of choice, but out of necessity for the greater good of the project or the team. It's about understanding that these moments are not about being harsh, but about leading with integrity and foresight. Next week, we'll shift our focus to people over process, where we'll discuss Chapter 5 of the Hard Knock School of Project Management, Lesson 4. Most of your time is spent managing people, not tasks. We'll explore how to balance human dynamics with project demands. Our book of the week will be The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes, offering insights into scaling success through people. And we'll be joined by Jacob Ransom, contractor turned marketing guru, to discuss how understanding people can transform your project management. So here's my final thoughts for the week. Embrace the role of the bad guy when it comes with the territory of doing what's right. Remember, it's through these challenging decisions that we forge our character, where we build trust, and we push projects to success. Every time you stand firm in the face of adversity, you're not just managing a project anymore. You're leading with courage and authenticity. Don't shy away from the hard choices. Instead, ask yourself, how can I turn this into an opportunity for growth? Or what can we all learn about this? Because in the end, leadership isn't about being liked by everyone. It's about guiding everyone towards a common goal, even when that path is tough. Thanks for joining us on this journey at the Hard Knock University podcast. Keep learning, keep growing, and until next time, keep embracing the hard lessons learned the hard way, even those learned from being the bad guy.